So today we're talking about Saint Clare, which is a thriller that's been described as American Psycho meets Joan of Arc. Our thoughts are incoming. It is a warm welcome back to Chris. That has made quite a few of our posts recently. Beef Mints, exactly. The Beef Mints gig we did.
To be honest, they are the best fans in the world. They fan you. What else do you want from a fan? They fan you.
They're really good. I left mine actually there the last time I played there, which is very annoying because I could have done with that here now because it's roasting in here with no windows open.
I've been taking this on the train to work with me and getting it out in packed train carriages, and because I'm that kind of gay, I don't care. So
and you're getting the fan out as well.
Yes, I was getting the fan out for it.
Should we talk about this film?
Let's talk about this film.
This is a thriller. I've seen it described as a comedy as well online. That is to be discussed and decided. Based on a novel by Don Roth. The novel was called Clare at 16. Helmed by award-winning Italian director Mitzi Perrone, who made a film called Braid and co-wrote the screenplay with Guinevere Turner, who wrote American Psycho. I'm a big fan of American Psycho. I remember seeing it at the time and it really freaked me out because it's quite aggressive, isn't it, that film?
It's a great film. It's a brilliant novel and it's an incredible film. I've got to say, I don't think this is in quite the same league. Let's just go straight in with that. It's not the same film, it's not the same kind of premises, it's not the same kind of thing. But yeah, American Psycho, incredible film, incredible.
Right, so let's talk about the story then. So what is it about? 16-year-old Claire Bleecker, who's played by Bella Thorne. She seems to be a normal teenager. She's a Catholic school student, an animal lover. She's a devout vegan. She lives with her grandparents. Her grandma, who's played by, I don't know if you remember this woman, Rebecca de Mornay. Do you remember The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, big 80s film that came out?
Don't know the name, but I recognised her when I saw her on screen, yeah.
So she played the kind of psycho woman that looks after babies in The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. I remember it really well, that film, back in the 80s. I haven't seen it since, actually, but I remember seeing it growing up. But anyway, she plays the grandmother. She lives in a small town. She's more than she appears to be. Underneath her reserved appearance lives a sociopath with disorder, which is a serial killer's disorder. It's set against a small town where she's haunted by voices that lead her to assassinate ill-intended people, men, until her last kill sucks her down a rabbit hole riddled with corruption, trafficking, and visions from the beyond. So first of all, I'm going to say I like the idea. I like the fact that this is about a teenage woman. It's like an army of one, really, because it's just her. Obviously, she's not acting with anybody else, but she's hell-bent on getting rid of pretty awful men from her world.
What I like about it is that it's an avenging film. It's a revenge film. And it's a woman taking a stand, as you say, against these men who've wronged her or have wronged other people sometimes. I actually really like the kind of Joan of Arc thing that keeps floating in and out. There's a little bit at the beginning, a little bit at the end. And I think there's, I don't know, unlike you, I wasn't around when Joan of Arc was walking the earth, so I couldn't tell you what she got up to. But, we have to do it every review, don't we?
Yeah, I know. It's compulsory, isn't it, now?
I don't know the story particularly well. I do know that Morrissey sang about her in Big Mouth Strikes Again, which is my main reference for Joan of Arc. I know enough about it to know that, she was basically kind of burnt at the stake, accused of being a witch and having all these amazing powers. And, there's a real parallel, the very, very clear parallel between our protagonist and Joan of Arc, and it's a really strong one. And in a way, it's a kind of updating of the story as far as I know it. But it's sort of, that's about it, really, I think, is the problem. I think you've set out the plot, you've described who everybody is and what they do, and we talked about that. Kind of that's about it, really. And I hate to be asking for more every time, but that was about it,
Well, in some ways, I think there was too much, because for me, it felt quite muddled in terms of what the film actually was. I know I'm not a big fan of films that have to be sat in one genre, because I think you can be more expansive than that, because obviously that's quite a clever thing to throw in lots of different styles and be quite unique with that. But with this, it felt like a bit of a kind of teen drama type, a bit like Hollyoaks, but an American version. I can't think of American Hollyoaks. There must be loads of them out there, but it felt a bit like... Oh, there we go. So, yeah, it felt a bit like that, because it felt quite soapy. I was going to say TV movie, because I don't think there's necessarily anything bad with a TV movie when it's done well, but yeah. It felt kind of soapy, and, there were elements of... I mean, obviously, the reference American Werewolf in London, where she's talking to a ghost, and it turns out obviously that man is someone she's had a history with in a bad way, but I'm not going to say any more because that would spoil it. But yeah, that reminded me of An American Werewolf in London, where Jack is haunting his friend David. I mean, that's one of my favourite films. Here we see Postman Bob, who's played by Frank Whaley, who is the guy that keeps popping up and haunting her. So I wasn't won over by its execution, because like I say, it did have a TV movie feel, but it felt like it was trying to do too many things.
The other slightly unconvincing thing about it is the 16-year-old, casting somebody who's quite clearly not 16 as a 16-year-old is never a particularly successful thing to do.
I know. I think she's mid-20s. I was going to look her age up and I completely forgot, but yeah, she certainly wasn't 16. That felt very 16. Unbelievable.
And I'd be very surprised if she was south of 21, to be honest. I'm sorry if I just offended the actress there, who's actually just...
Well, you've offended me. Why not offend someone else?
Might as well just back out everybody. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a thing. There needs to be credibility in characters and performances and films and production. We talk about this quite often. We need to, as viewers, to be taken along. And unfortunately, if not all parts of that jigsaw puzzle are in play and kind of in the right places, it lets it down. And I have to say that she was a pretty unconvincing 16-year-old. I don't know a lot of 16-year-olds, obviously. But she just wasn't a particularly convincing one. And I just sort of thought, oh, she's a young woman avenging these wrongs. And that's totally fine. But I think it would have more power if she somehow was more juvenile, if she was younger. That would have been more powerful.
I think her performance was good. I don't think there was anything wrong with her performance. I think it was probably the fact that she was playing someone younger than what she seemed that didn't feel quite right. It didn't sit quite right, and it didn't feel believable for that reason. I think if she had been older in that story, I think it would have been more believable, because I think it was quite a convincing performance. She was quite gutsy, I thought. But yeah, it just felt a little bit drifty, and I said I felt like it didn't know what kind of film it wanted to be, because you look at the poster, and the poster gave me folk horror vibes, because it's got that kind of 70s retro feel about it. And obviously, there is going to be another reference. Maybe people are going to think of Saint Maud because it's Saint Clare, and it gives off that impression that it's that kind of film where it's like a possession type movie. And I know it's not like that at all, but I was confused as to what kind of film it was.
We're not over analytical, but we watch a lot of films, and we review a lot of films, and we talk about a lot of films, and we kind of do know what's kind of important to viewers and audiences. And I think it's like this one somehow didn't quite make it through the focus groups in the way it should have done. It feels like lots of pieces of it just don't quite fit, whether it's the production, the art, the soundtrack even, lots of it's just not quite right. Also,
are we meant to side with the serial killer? Because it feels like you're on her side. And yes, you do agree with maybe the motives, you understand the motives, but essentially she's a killer. So I found that quite weird. It's like she wasn't really troubled by what her killer personality was doing, and there didn't seem to be any kind of conflict with that. It's like her conscience, for me, it didn't feel like she was fighting those two personalities.
Conscience is the word, and that was the thing. That's one of the little pieces of the jigsaw puzzle that was missing, that would have just given it an extra little human dimension, would have given it a bit more interest and intrigue. Because I think we both sat there probably watching this film thinking, well, how does she feel about what she's doing? And you never get to know her, and you never really get to know what she's feeling and whether she's got any conscience and whether she regrets anything. There are little moments where, she's definitely a human being, but you don't get a fully three-dimensional character. Now, that could be, you get that in lots of other films. We just talked about American Psycho. Patrick Bateman is not a fully functioning human being, let's be honest.
Oh my God. He's terrifying.
Absolute loony. But because because that's so clear in that film that he's an absolutely psychotic lunatic, you know that that's his personality. I mean, let's be honest, we have to kind of, as human beings, we have to put people in categories. And I think it was difficult to categorize her as someone she's not out of control. She's perfectly in control of what she's doing. But is she sort of not possessed by something, but is she driven by something? It's kind of hard to know, because you don't really get to know her well enough, I think.
No, I never got that impression with her character. I never got the impression that she was terrifying, like Patrick Bateman was, because he was very unhinged, and you don't really get a sense of that here. And also, I guess people are going to compare it to Dexter as well, because it's that kind of vibe, isn't it? It's, I suppose, edgy, and there's a bit of comedy there, and it makes it quite playful. And
let's be honest, things like Dexter and Nurse Jackie, where you've got like characters who are doing stuff because they need to, you know, there's a very real need for them to act in these ways, whether that's killing people or medicating them and getting rid of them or whatever it is that these characters are doing. Because those things are TV series and there's seasons and seasons for to develop characters, you get that sense of character. It's much more of a challenge in a feature film, of course, and it's much more of a challenge in 90 minutes to unpick a person and to show you everything. I get that. But we wouldn't be saying these things if neither of us had seen films where you do get that, where you do get to know someone and you do understand their motives and what drives them. And you just didn't get that here. Now, I think probably if the people that made this film were in this room with us now, or in our rooms with us now, they'd say, oh, that was a deliberate ploy. We didn't want you to get to know those people. It's a deliberate thing. But even that, it wasn't that clear that that's what they'd done either. They hadn't shut us out of getting to know those people. They just didn't do it somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, if you suffer with motion sickness, don't watch this film, because it felt like the camera was on a piece of string. It was like dangling the camera. I'm sure there was more artistry in that, but it made me feel really woozy and a bit seasick, because there's lots of zoom-ins and zoom-backs, and the camera's like at weird angles, and I just wanted it to stop after a while. I was getting quite wound up by that.
Mercifully, it's not a very long film. I mean, we could say that in its favour. It didn't go on for hours and hours and hours. It's not like we hated every aspect of it. You know, it was the right length.
Yeah, true. Well, I'm going for 2 stars.
Wow, straight in.
Yeah, it didn't work for me. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't something that I would want to see again, or I didn't really enjoy it. I enjoyed elements of it.
I think, yes, absolutely. I think that is something that we have to keep thinking about when we look at these films, isn't it? You know, did I spend an hour and a half of my time enjoying something? You know, at the end of the day, did we get something from these films? And I've got to be honest and agree with you and say that I didn't. It was an hour and a half I could have been painting the kitchen ceiling instead and probably got as much enrichment from. You know, it's like... It was fine, you know, it occupied me for an hour and a half, but it didn't entertain me particularly, it didn't stimulate me particularly. And unfortunately, another big sign for me is just how memorable is a film after I've seen it. I can, even if I can't remember details about plots or the characters or the actors, there's often something about the ambience or something that you just take away, that you just remember. And this one, to be frank, didn't leave me with anything. There's no real trace of it at all, and that's not a particularly good sign. You know, it's obviously not particularly convenient right now because I can't remember much about the film as we're talking about it. But I think it's important a film stays with you a bit. You know, if it hasn't, it's not really worked for me. You know, it's got to stay with you in some way. You know. Yeah.
Well, Frank, thank you very much for your honest opinions. So he said to be frank.
Yeah, and I got all of that. Thank you.
Saint Clare arrives on UK Digital on the 21st of July through 101 Films. And we'll have a new review soon, Chris. Have a great Pride. I know this is just pointless to say this because this is going to come out a few weeks after, but I'm sure you will have a great Pride. You'll be very successful. People will love you.
Why are you giving me all this assurance? Oh, because I have to give you the assurance back. Is that how this works? Okay, right. Phil, I know you've got a really busy Pride. You've got lots and lots of gigs all through the day, starting early in the afternoon and carrying on early into the next morning the next day. And for an old dowager of your age, that is a strong. So I know you're going to be okay. You're gonna survive. People are going to come and they're going to throw their knickers at you like they always do. You're going to be a success. It's going to be amazing. We're going to survive Pride, and it's going to be a great day.
And for those that are new here that haven't seen any previous videos, Chris is a year older than me.
That's
just throwing that out there.
Not even factually correct.
Happy Pride.